DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it back. Tell the DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it back. Tell them play that shit again, tell them that you like that. Like DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, bring it, bring it. DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, bring it, bring it. DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, bring it, bring it. Play that shit again, tell them that you like that. Like.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday night to you and yours. It's clearly the holiday season as we have the lovely decorations over here. I am Chip of Chips and Dish, Chip for the Birds on Twitter, joined by my very good friend and fellow teacher at Eisenhower Middle School, Mr. Don Conaway. Make some noise for Mr. Don Conaway. It's just you and me clapping.
Doing tonight? How are you?
Shout out to all about the birds, my boys Philly, I'm going to call you Philly now. Phil, Johnny, and Jeff for letting me do this. This is now the second episode of All About the Birds presenting Chips and Dish, and we are going to talk some things tonight. I mean, I want to say that we're going to talk more than just the Eagles because I feel after yesterday we talked about a ton of the Eagles. Johnny, what is up, my dude? Hope everything is going well. Once again, thank you for the intro video. Much appreciated. But I mean, let's be honest. There's not much to talk about in Philadelphia right now, except for the Eagles. So we're going to spend some time there. I do have to give a shout out to 99 jerseys. You'll notice the Bobby Boucher Mud Dogs Bourbon Bowl jersey. Time to open up some whoop ass. This is a linebacker I would like to have on the team. So I'm just saying, we're gonna look into a sponsorship with 99 jerseys. I get all my cool stuff from them. But you know what, Don, why don't you talk a little bit, introduce yourself, let the people know who you are and a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Don Conaway. I'm a science teacher by trade, but a 4-for-4 Philly sports fan in my spare time. Grew up in the area, grew up watching all four teams. My earliest memories of Eagles games and sitting on a couch watching the draft with my dad, so it's been something that's been a part of my life for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just looking forward to, talking some sports and trying to figure out what's going on with the birds.
Let's spend some time talking about some sports. So I don't know if you're aware, but there was an Eagles game yesterday. Now I say that, but I mean, there was a slated time for the Eagles to show up on a football field and play a game.
Yeah, they missed the bus on that one. That
didn't happen. And so one of my jobs with the All About the Birds squad is to write articles. And the article that I really find myself enjoying writing the most is I get to grade each of the positions on the field that happened yesterday. And as I'm working my way down the list, one word kept coming to mind. Proton Don. I think that's a story for another time.
That's a story.
Proton Don was not the word I was thinking of, but I think
that's a solid family friend right there.
But the word that came to mind yesterday was heartless.
Yeah, there was no heart.
And I say that knowing that very few players on that team show heart. Jason Kelce is the heart of Philadelphia, not just the Eagles, but he is the heart of Philadelphia and everything that we as Eagles fans want to see on the field. And the thing that stood out in my mind,
everything that you would want to see in in a Philadelphia athlete.
The thing that stood out in my mind was after his injury, starting the second half, he was going to be on that field, but he couldn't lift his arm high enough to strap up his own helmet. And he said, screw this. Somebody do it for me. And he didn't miss another snap.
No, and you saw him walking up and down the sidelines, not going in the tent, not refusing, not necessarily to keep himself from harm, but he was hard.
He wasn't missing the rest of that game.
Not missing any plays.
We can't say the same about other members of the offensive line. We can't say the same for the effort put on the field. I mean, I can list 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different examples of times that just nothing.
Jason Peters might as well have been working at AMC movie theater taking tickets.
Well, let me tell you, it was a free pass all day.
It's a revolving door.
And I want to be very clear about something. Yesterday, we played a Cleveland Browns team with Myles Garrett not playing. We played a Cleveland Browns team without their best pass rusher. And true to Eagles fashion, we make somebody else look like an all-pro.
Absolutely.
I quick went onto Wikipedia and snuck in that, Olivier
Vernon.
Yeah, is now he owns Jason Peters of the Eagles. I snuck it in there, and then they pulled it off. But I got a quick picture before
He killed the Eagles when he played for the Giants. In the time that he played for the Giants, he did the same thing.
But can you imagine if Myles Garrett played yesterday?
What did I tell you yesterday? Would have been what, 8? He would have had 8
minimum,
probably by himself.
Minimum. I said on November 1st. So you and I were talking a little bit today, and I said on November 1st, this Eagles team and the loyalty to aging players is preventing progress. November 1st. Today, Rube Frank retweeted an article about how loyalty is preventing progress. So we, of course, laughed. We're a month ahead of schedule. But looking at it, Alshon Jeffrey, they released the snap counts today. Alshon Jeffrey on the field, 5 plays yesterday. 5. That's it. 5 plays. Richard over here, he's saying exactly, need to rebuild. Yeah. And that's where we have one of our first major disconnects that I want to talk about tonight. Is this a team that is focused on making the playoffs this year? Or is this a team that is focused on rebuilding and letting the young guys get a chance?
Well, let's be honest. Even if they do make the playoffs, and that is the goal. That's the first goal, to win the division, make a playoff. Is this still a success if they win the division at 5 with 5 wins, 6 wins?
If that, you and I were spending some time
a little later on, but is that something? Is that a win?
Right. Is that something that is even possible at this point? The team that showed up yesterday wins 0 games the rest of the year. Flat out. And you look at the rest of their schedule, Seattle, Green Bay, Saints. Those are not winnable games. Those are not winnable games.
No, not the way that Seattle's playing. Certainly not the way that Green Bay and New Orleans are playing.
I'm worried that if we played the Jets, they'd give us a run for their money. Our money.
And
right?
to go a week further, if you look at Arizona's, that's
what worries me about Seattle,
the
Saints, and Arizona is the same issue, a running quarterback. We have seen what happens when this team goes against a quarterback with any level of mobility.
Right.
We get torched. You don't think that they are reviewing the film of Daniel Jones, what he did the last 2 games?
If I'm any one of those 6 teams that we play, I automatically go and I put that in the playbook regardless.
Absolutely.
I know that in the first game, it didn't work. They scored, outside of him tripping on the 10-yard line, that's a touchdown play. And the play that he scores this last game, I put that in my playbook any day of the week.
So what you're saying, and I'm spitballing here. Sure. You're saying that a good coach sees something that works or doesn't work against a team,
Right.
and makes a change.
You put your team, your job as the coach is to put your team in the best position to win. You figure out what your players do well, and then you build that around. Look at, let's be honest. Let's look at Belichick.
Okay.
And that offense is an amoeba. It is from year to year, never the same.
Wait a sec. You're saying he's not running the same offense that he ran with slow-footed Tom Brady with Cam Newton? Those are two different offenses? He changed for the players that he has?
Well, even that's even the case for even while they had Tom Brady.
I know.
Year, that personnel changed from year to year, and they figured out sometimes they were spread. When they had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, they had two tight ends that they fit in. I mean, you think about, you put your team in the best position to be successful. And right now, that is not happening.
And I discussed this last week on the first episode, and I discussed this at the post-game show. You can't call plays for the players that you wish you had. You have to call plays for the plays you have. You know, I coach middle school football. I said this already. We change our offense depending on who is on the field. You know, but instead, here are some quotes from today's press conference, right? These are Doug quotes a day after a loss. Alshon is a part of the offense. We have to get him in the game more. It's on me to get him in the game. 2 weeks, 3 targets. Yesterday, he was on the field for 5 plays. The attempt to catch the ball on that interception
that was
like my 6-year-old playing Madden, just playing with the controllers.
Right.
The timing was so bad. But 5 plays, can you blame the guy? He's got no rhythm whatsoever.
Right. And you have to think about, you saved that roster spot. You
saved the roster spot for the entire first half of the season.
And you had to, in order to get him on the roster, you had to let a draft pick go. And that draft pick signed with a team in the division.
Yeah, it's and then even, you know,
it's just frustrating.
So you want to talk about signings, you know, we signed Jordan Howard. Okay. Here's the logic behind that move. And I do understand it. The logic behind the move is Clement's hurt. Clemens got COVID.
Right.
So that's a running back spot. But you already don't run the ball enough. So why spend that on another running back? Why spend that on another running back? Why not on a corner? Because our secondary is so incredible. Why not on a kicker who is consistent? Because Doug doesn't kick field goals. Why not spend that on another lineman? Because your line is decimated week in and week out. It was shocking to me to see the 5 that started and the 5 that finished in all different positions. How do you get any kind of continuity with a different offensive line from drive to drive?
And,
you know, go ahead.
I mean, I think what you have to look like, if I have to watch Jalen Mills get beat by a double move for another week,
but he's the safety of the future.
He is this generation's Isaiah Jenkins. He
throwing some names in there. I like it.
He consistently gets burnt by that double move.
Consistently gets burnt.
I think, and there's where I think we go back and talk about coaching. How is that something that he's been in this system for how many years? And
5, 6 years, 6, 7, maybe. He's up there.
And you've had defensive back, you've had coaching changes in those position coaches, but you still see the same mistakes.
Exactly. And see, we talked about this at the post-game show yesterday. The definition of insanity, and again, we're teachers. You know, Don and I are teachers, so we understand this logic. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We have done the same thing over and over and expected a shockingly different result. But just like at the end of the Chip Kelly saga, he started out his coaching career with incredible plays and this groundbreaking offense. And then by week 7 or 8, they caught onto it. And it was never the same.
They never, but that system, they never changed. And I feel like, and I feel like that's where I felt after the game yesterday. I felt like the same way that I felt.
Math teacher speaking up. O'Hagan saying it exactly.
Right.
When it doesn't work, you fix it.
The same way that I felt when that era was coming to an end. Like where do you say, hey Doug, get Carson out of the pocket?
Okay, so I love that you said that, and I'm gonna stop you right there. Right here we go. Quotes from Doug about Carson. Wentz needs to be coached up for these next 6 weeks. We don't want to send the wrong message to the team by changing that position. He needs to make better decisions and get rid of the ball. There was not, this is back to me now. There was one designed rollout pass, and it was in the 4th quarter. One. And the announcers, people who don't have this heart and soul invested into the team, go, well, he's a pretty athletic quarterback. Maybe they should do that more. And we're over there going, we know. Yeah. So how is it that everyday schlubs like us can know the situation? Sportscasters can know the situation, and nothing changes. Somebody on my Facebook feed, like right after I posted, the article and all this stuff, went on this tirade about how, oh, well, us regular fans don't know any better, and how there's all of these things that, coaches look at and they know and they know, and they're not showing it. Right. This is right now the absolute worst offense in football.
Right.
The worst offense in football. My friend Andrew Silverman said it exactly, right? The offensive play calling is incredibly bland and has no creativity. I am telling you for a 100% fact, the middle school offense that Frank Panzulo and I run is better than the offense that was on the field yesterday. This is a very predictable offense. Yeah. I think Doug knows Jalen Hurts is not better than Wentz. That's a conversation we're going to have in about 5 minutes because I want to talk about that. Right? Yeah. Peters is the left tackle moving forward. Opeta is better than Herbig. I could have used Jalen Hurts more. One snap on those plays to take Carson off the field. Sitting the franchise quarterback sends the wrong message. He is saying all of this absolute junk and then not doing a single thing to change it.
It's all fluff. And I think you look at that and you say, like, for instance, for the last 3 seasons, the Eagles, since the Super Bowl, so 18, 19, and this year, they have lost 4 of their first 9 games in all 3 seasons. Nothing's changing. That it almost sounds like it might be the mom from Charlie Brown.
Right.
Like you're not hearing, like those players are not responding,
and you're so stubborn about it.
And listen, I will preface this and say Wentz has not played well in the last few weeks.
No,
but if Wentz is not the guy, if we say we're beyond it, if Wentz is not the guy, do you still trust Doug Peterson to develop Jalen Hurts? Because I don't. Because I have not seen any. When I look back,
I don't know if it's not that I don't trust Jalen Hurts, right? And I see that Drew put this comment up, right? When Howie drafted a quarterback in the second that's projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round. Yeah. And here's the thing. If you have a franchise. What's that?
I said, he's right. When you draft him in that spot, you're almost what we're seeing is that you're force feeding him into the game.
Right. So rule of thumb. And again, I keep citing my Madden credentials, right? Big Madden sports video gamer. Here are my Madden credentials. Here's what I know to be true. If you draft a player in the 1st round, you expect him to be starting during that season at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay? If you draft a player in the 2nd or 3rd round, you expect them to be contributing members by their second year.
Yes.
You drafted a quarterback in the second round when you have, according to Doug's own words, a franchise quarterback.
Right.
That is a wasted draft pick. So now you're forcing him onto the field because you want to quiet people like us. You want to tell people like us to not have an opinion. Who cares?
Like, and the thing that drives me nuts, like when I listen to the press conferences and I listen to how like snarky he'll get when some of the reporters like Jeff McClain will ask him questions. And after the Giants game, Jeff McClain asked Doug a question about when you call plays when Wentz is on the field, you look at how New Orleans calls plays when Taysom Hill's on the field. They take Drew Brees off and you put another weapon on the field.
Correct.
You're taking Wentz out of the quarterback position. You're putting Hurts on the field, and now he's essentially playing with.
And you're calling the same play over and over and over and over again. You're calling that option read, and it's gaining you 6 yards. But why not just give it to Miles Sanders and let him get 6 yards? You know, this was one of the most interesting set of numbers to me. And I understand that the score changed, so you had to throw it more. I get it.
Right.
However, 19 runs in the first half yesterday for 96 yards. Yes, Miles Sanders had a horrible fumble.
Yes.
Horrible fumble.
But how many times have you seen in a game where a player fumbles, right? You're a guy that you rely on. What would you see Mike Tomlin do when he had Le'Veon Bell?
You put it right back in his gut and you make him make a play.
And what did they do? They completely abandoned it. They
19 runs for 96, 6 runs for 10. You pulled the ball away from the running backs on a rainy day with a quarterback with low confidence when he's getting hit multiple times.
Right. Again, we go back to you put the players in the best position to be successful. And you took those first 2 drives. I'm sitting on a couch going, well, if we do this all day, we'll be fine.
It was hysterical. I tweeted out, I said, man, play calling's great. Carson looks good. Then, like, within a minute, he throws that horrific pick 6, which he should never have thrown. And I know. And I saw a couple people say, oh, well, he's also supposed to block and catch the ball himself. He's supposed to know to throw it away. He's supposed to know to tuck it and run. And all of that comes down to rolling Carson out of the pocket. You saw it in game after game after game yesterday where you rolled the quarterback out of the pocket. Phillip Rivers is rolled out of the pocket, and when he has no one to throw it to, he just throws it out of bounds.
Phillip Rivers, who has 27 kids and
molasses on his shoes.
Right. And he's got but who so who's
can we be honest, our running backs suck? No, they don't. Miles Sanders.
I don't think I don't
disagree. Miles Sanders has a chance to be a really good running back in this league.
Yeah.
Boston Scott, he's a nice piece. The Jordan Howard piece, it makes sense to me, except when you dress Holyfield yesterday and you don't even put him on the field one time. Not one time. You got to take carries away. You got to take some of those 16 carries away from Miles Sanders now, just when he's starting to get going. Who are Carson Wentz's weapons?
Yeah.
We don't know because the play calling is so bad. I remember the one play that was so surprising to me, and I think I put this in my article. The one play that was so surprising to me was Goddard open on the sideline. Wentz throws it to him, and it's right in his breadbasket. He catches it. And I remember feeling shocked going, that was a great play. Great play, great pass.
Right.
Why are we surprised by basic passing, please?
Well,
that work.
Because it doesn't happen frequently. And you look at let me read you a couple of guys who have caught touchdown passes from Wentz.
Go ahead.
Josh Perkins, Mac Hollins, Greg Ward, Josh Huff. Like we're not talking about these we're not talking about elite talent.
I'm scrolling through these real quick while you go. Yeah.
Sure. Like you have, if you look back at the draft picks, I know someone that mentioned draft picks. Like if you look at the skill positions that we have drafted since we drafted Wentz, Wendell Smallwood, Shelton Gibson, Donnell Pumphrey, Mac Hollins, I mean, the two that I'll say and Arcega-Whiteside.
Oh God, please,
Now,
listen.
in that
We
mix, I've also
can't
drafted-
mention that name on the show.
But listen, it took until 2018 to get to a draft where you drafted a guy that has significantly made a contribution. Like that to me, like you have, this is the same thing that happened with the Sixers.
Mhm.
You don't surround your players, your best players, with people that are going to make them better.
Right.
And we'll get into the Sixers in a little bit. But
right. This is the point that we're kind of chatting about too, though. Throw it away. Fundamentals. Jordan Howard, another one who's going to sit and rot. And we talk fundamentals here, right? How many times has a quarterback burned us on an option because the defensive end in Jim Schwartz's system, where the defensive end doesn't seal, didn't seal, and allows him to scoot around the end. But if you listen to any Pee Wee coach in America, the defensive end's job is to seal. So why is Jim Schwartz different? Because he's Jim Schwartz.
But I mean, like I said before, if you know that play is coming, because in the post-game interviews from the last Giants game and the first Giants game, oh well, we knew it was coming, but we didn't. We gotta make better plays. Come on, like you can't say, well, we knew that play was coming. Well, if you knew that play was coming, and they ran it, and they had
the exact same play.
The exact same play. That to me, that's coaching. That falls on coaching.
And it ties to like the thinking that I had, and I was watching the game last night. I was watching the Raiders game last night.
Right.
And I finally got a chance to see Nelson Aguilar play a full game under a different coach.
Right.
He looks great. So how can a player move to a different team and have such an overwhelming level of success for a different team? It tells you it's the coaching. Drew says, crazy, Ronald Darby ranks 5th in the league as the best cornerback. It's scheme.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen.
Sidney Jones, same thing. Russell Douglas has had success.
LJ Fort, Kamer Grugier-Hill, Jordan Hicks. Like the list is long. But those guys, Sidney Jones is having success, a ton of success. No, he's not lighting up the world, but he's having success.
He's better than Avonte Maddox right now.
He's making tackles. LJ Fort is playing significant time for Baltimore. Jordan Hicks, before he got hurt, is playing well in Arizona. Like these guys are not they weren't lighting the world on fire here.
But the problem is, and Richard says it right here, the only thing that can save the Eagles is a full teardown and rebuild. The issue is, and this is the thing that keeps saving us, and Doug said it today, we are in first place in the NFC East. We are still competing. You are a team that is 3-6-1.
You are in first place in the worst division in the history of the NFL.
Correct.
That's being the smartest kid in a room full of not smart people.
Right. I just watched the movie Waiting the other day, so I knew where you were trying to get to without getting there. I can't say some of those words, but I get it. And the thing that drives me the most insane is at 3-6-1 with the other 3 teams in the division at 3-7.
Right.
Us going, this could be our year. And look, we know.
Oh.
If we make the playoffs, we know we could go for a run. But like we were saying earlier, you look at the rest of the NFC East and who they have to play. So let's just go week 12, right?
Sure.
Eagles have to play the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf is going to catch for 200 yards.
Yeah.
Easily.
Anybody who has him for fantasy should
play him. Play him twice.
Yeah.
Because like Richard said, we can't stop a nosebleed. All right, so we have Seattle. The Cowboys have Washington. Obviously, Washington has the Cowboys. So someone's got to win that game on Thanksgiving. So the Giants have Cincinnati, who is now without their best player, Joe Burrow.
So the Giants honestly, the Giants could end up being the best out of this bunch. Even though
I don't necessarily agree with you only because They still have to play Seattle, Arizona, Cleveland, and Baltimore, right?
No, I'm just
Cowboys.
If I just look at the team in general, I mean, they're playing pretty well. Not to say that the teams that are coming up they're going to beat,
right?
But if I'm looking,
I'm looking at like the Cowboys. The Cowboys have Baltimore, so they're going to probably beat Washington.
Right.
They're going to probably lose to Baltimore. They will beat Cincinnati. They will beat San Francisco. They will beat the Eagles. I am saying that now. If nothing changes on this Eagles team, team, just like Drew said, will not win another game this season. This team has no heart right now.
Yeah.
None.
Drew, you could be absolutely right. This team has not shown any kind of life to be.
Doug can call a cab out of town as far as I'm concerned. But
Absolutely.
if you win the NFC East, Doug's not getting fired. Schwartz probably not getting fired. Howie's not getting fired because you're the NFC East winning Eagles.
Well, and if we're talking about a teardown, again, we'll go back to what we talked about at the beginning. Is this leadership in Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson? Is that a group that we trust to rebuild?
So I'm gonna play something for you that kind of ties into that. This is something from 2017. This is Doug's own words in 2017 talking about Carson Wentz. This has made its rounds, but I want to play this really quickly because I think it's important that you understand how Doug viewed dealing with Carson Wentz. Yeah, so let me play this real quick for you, for the peoples.
John Matain, you never know about a player really, truly until you get him in your building that you can work with guys. This kid's unbelievable. The way he prepares, the way he practices, and for this city, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's been fun. As long as we don't screw him up, right? John Matain,
that makes me like that. When I first heard that made me cringe because that happened.
As long as we don't screw him up too bad.
Well, here we are.
The regression.
I mean, if you go back now, listen, he had a good statistical year last year, but if you look at the play, put the statistics aside, put the analytics aside and say, look at when you watch the game, he has not gotten better since he left that Rams game.
No. And maybe that's a mental thing. Maybe that's an injury thing. Maybe, and we said this yesterday in the postgame show, maybe we're dealing with an Andrew Luck situation where he's getting hit at an NFL record level. Maybe he goes, you know what? I just had a daughter. I want to be able to hold her in 5 years. Maybe I'm just going to call it quits. Maybe I don't need this.
And here's, and this is something that I shared with you the other day. Here's my ultimate fear. That he leaves.
Yep.
And is successful somewhere else. If he goes to Indianapolis and hooks up with Reich because you have Phillip Rivers, who's an aging guy who's not there long term, or God forbid, if he ends up with the hoodie in New England, which does a great job at putting his player in the best position to be successful.
So, and I'm looking at the comments that are scrolling in, he was the next coming of John Elway. They were the same ones who want him gone. I don't want him gone. I want him good. No.
Yeah.
I want him good.
Yeah. And that's where I think if you brought in a new voice, if Eric Bieniemy doesn't get a head coaching job,
he will. He will. There's too much talk around the guy.
But there's been talk around him for the last 2-3 seasons since he's done what he's done with he and Reed doing what they've done with Mahomes. But if you brought in a guy like that and teamed him up with a guy that you and I have talked about, if you team him up with a guy like Orlovsky, who
I love me some Dan Orlovsky. I'll be very clear about that. I want to elect him God. I love that man.
But you think about the way that he thinks, the way that he analyzes, the way that he looks. Carson Wentz because you've seen signs of Carson Wentz being successful.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces, hits and miss, right? But if you put him in a situation and think about who they had in 17 when he was so successful.
Right.
Frank Reich and DiFilippo, right? So if you teamed him up with a guy like Eric Bieniemy, who is going to run an offense like Mahomes, where he's going to roll him out, he's going to get quick hits. If you team him up with a guy like Orlovsky that has a great mind.
He played quarterback in the league, just like Peterson, but he also has the analyzing ability.
But if you, look at how the two of them will talk about the same scenario. And that will tell you all you need to know about what guy you want
to lead
you.
You posed a question to me last week, which kind of sparked me inviting you on this week. And I want to put it out there. So if you guys are watching and you guys are commenting, and thank you so much for watching and commenting. It really, this is kind of a passion of mine and Don's, and we love the comments coming in. But I want you guys to weigh in on this. And here's the question. Would you rather, every wife's favorite question, would you rather, and here's this smorgasbord of funness, have Carson Wentz with a new coach, so Doug would go, Carson Wentz with a new coach, or Doug Peterson with Jalen Hurts? So Carson would go. Would you rather Carson Wentz with a new coach or Doug Peterson with Jalen Hurts? Drew was real quick. He said new coach.
100%. Drew, I'm with you. Because I think you're looking at there have been glimpses of talent. Like you look at that throw that Wentz had in the end zone at the end of the last season against Washington. Right? That a non-skilled quarterback doesn't make that throw.
Correct.
So he shows signs, but I don't think he's being coached up. He's being coached. He's not being coached up to say, hey, look at take 3 steps and get the ball out. If you're calling a drop back, that ball has to be out.
7 steps.
Listen, I went back this week and watched the Gruden draft.
Right, the quarterback stuff. Yeah.
The quarterback camp. And he's smacking him with a pool noodle saying, get the ball out. 1, 2, 3, get the ball out. 1, 2, 3, get the ball out.
His MO has always been that he holds the ball too long.
Right. But in those first 2 years, in 16 and 17, you didn't see a whole lot of that. You saw 1, 2, 3, get the ball out. 1, 2, 3, get the ball out.
Apparently, you're commenting on it yourself. It's fantastic.
Oh no, that's my that's my draft. That's my draft day buddy. We would sit and watch the draft for all 3 days.
But so think about that, right? The MO is that Carson holds the ball too long. And for the first couple of years, the Eagles were known as an RPO team, right? It was taking over the league, an RPO team. Have we called that this season?
You haven't seen any of it.
We haven't seen. We don't run the quick slants, right? You have all this speed, yet you don't hit the quick slants. You don't send Jalen Reagor in motion, right? I have more statistics for you, right? Here you go. They've run 3 plays this season. 3 with Jalen Reagor in motion. 3. Here's what happened. And Carson rolling to his side and throwing it to him. Okay? They've run 3 plays with Jalen Reagor in motion, Carson rolling to his side and throwing to him. Here are the results. In the Rams game, it was a 14-yard first down.
Right.
In the Cowboys game, it was a 6-yard first down. And then later in the Cowboys game, a 2-yard for a touchdown. So you find something that works. You find something that works, and then you don't do it. You find Travis Fulgham, you know that he's a high-volume wide receiver. You got to get him the ball, get him the ball.
He was on a milk carton.
1 catch yesterday.
In the last couple weeks.
He's been, he's covered because defensive coordinators saw that he was a good receiver and they shut him down.
But your job
for him.
Right. Your job as the coach is to say, how do I get him open?
Yeah.
How do I get him open? That's your job. if
His
you know
team.
that, if you know that for the first couple games that he played, he was at the top. If you chunk those games, he's at the top in terms of yardage, in terms of volume. But now you have this play, like the last two games, he's missing in action. Like he's there, but he's not.
Correct. And that's what's infuriating me.
What kind of message does that send to a young player, a developing player?
This one right here, right? You never see. I think is this Kevin Marshall? I think it's Kevin Marshall. I'm guessing here. Go Eagles 302. But I think looking at the picture, I think it's Kevin Marshall. But what it says you never see Doug on the sidelines with Wentz. You see many other coaches. They take the time to chat with the quarterbacks after series. Right. So now you've got a quarterback who is getting rocked every play, who has somebody who was a second-round draft pick right on his tail, so they're finding ways to put on the field. And, sorry, Brian from Delaware. What's up? Nice to meet you. Right? And he's on an island by himself talking to Nate Sudfeld, who is never getting dressed.
Right.
So you're not even coaching him during the game. You're not coaching. And it came out all last week. He has these sloppy practice habits. As the coach, it is your job to do something about it. Could you imagine? My favorite from last week was Mike Tomlin, right? Mike Tomlin, they said that Ben Roethlisberger, who's had all kinds of arm issues, said in a post-game conference, he goes, maybe I'm going to talk to coach about not having me throw this week. I'll still be out there for the reps, but I'm just not going to throw. Mike Tomlin, of course, was asked, hey, did that conversation happen? Tomlin's response, yeah, it was a real short conversation, and we had full practice.
Right.
And there was no follow-up question. It was, the coach run that team.
Right.
Well, if Carson Wentz ran Frank Reich out of town because Frank Reich demanded too much of him, which has been the MO, that's what people have been saying.
Well, yeah, between him and DeFilippo, they wrote him.
Right.
But if you look at his progression from 16 to 17.
Right. Richard says they never went for a true deep ball threat. So in the offseason, we got all this speed.
So did you hear the clip from this week that the NFL Network played from it was the draft day war room from the Vikings?
No, but go ahead.
And so they're playing this clip, and you hear in the background noise of them talking about possible picks and talking about who's the best DB on the board, because they're thinking Justin Jefferson's on the board, right?
Right, and he's coming off. Right.
They're going to take him. The Eagles take Jalen Reagor, who they probably could have gotten with the second pick, the second round.
Yeah.
You could have taken him. He probably still would have been available, possibly. Well, it literally was like they literally erupted, and all of a sudden are saying, get Jefferson on the phone, get him on the phone. Like, it was
right now. Right, and there's no Moss, there's no T.O. kind of threat. You're talking about a team, you're talking about an organization who had T.O. at one point, who had Chris Carter at one point, who had Irving Fryer at one point. We've had some quality receivers.
Right.
Nobody, and the solution this offseason was, or last offseason, was we need a deep threat. Let's go back out and get Deshaun Jackson. An NFL aging, I'm saying aging at 33 years old, and knowing that Deshaun Jackson is in his 30s, and I'm calling him aging. We're talking NFL aging.
But his trend was down.
Big time. And he barely played.
He played
over the last 2 seasons.
Half of a game last year.
Right.
In last season, played the first half of the first game against the Redskins.
And then his injury was mismanaged, just like Alshon's injury was mismanaged this year.
Correct.
Jason Peters was brought in after injury after injury after injury to play guard. Okay, our left tackle, Dillard, gets hurt. We move him over to tackle. That makes sense. Except and it was going to happen, Peters got hurt, and Mailata showed signs of being a successful replacement. You got to go with the hot hand when your team has the record that it does. And here is Mailata going, I'm going to play left tackle when Peters goes out. Oh, no, okay, now over here I got to go because Lane Johnson's out. Mailata is becoming, and this is kind of another issue with the Eagles, a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah. You took a guy in Fulgham who had success, and Alshon came back and he came off the field. You had a guy like Mulata who showed signs of success, and then you take him off the field. If your job is to develop talent, then
and we're not
why are you taking young guys who are showing promise off the field and replacing them with aging guys who aren't showing promise?
Who should have retired 5 years ago. And I said this yesterday. I said, Peters is going from being the all-pro Jason Peters and the future Hall of Famer to going, maybe he stayed a little too long. The back half of his career is really starting to
absolutely.
And the question comes in is that at 3-6-1, your team is bad, right? Your team is bad. And I'm not saying Jordan Mailata is the future. I'm not saying that a player like Holyfield is the future. I'm not saying that.
But
what I'm saying is I don't know.
Right. And your goal, if you're looking at the season from this point, you've got 6 games left. You are 3-6.
Joey, I agree. I agree. 100% with this, I agree.
If you're 3-6-1, even though you are winning the division, your job for the next 6 games is to try to figure out what you have.
Right. So
what is going out of the building, because those guys, Peters and Jeffrey, should not be on this team next year.
And so this is a point that it's not that they shouldn't be. They will not be on the team next year.
Right.
Alshon Jeffrey and Jason Peters will not be wearing Philadelphia Eagles uniforms next year. So why spend the rest of the season trying to figure out if they should be on the field this season? And this is my point that I need to make. And I've said this before. And then I'm going to be honest. My heart is so broken from the name. This is the last thing we're going to say Eagles before we move on, because there's good news on the horizon for other sports. Yes. But this is what I'm going to say. Are you building for a season or a dynasty? Because if you're building for a season, then you play Peters, you play Alshon, you play all the players, you play the best players you have.
What is the best possible outcome from this season?
You squeak in and you host a home playoff game where you get absolutely wrecked by a team that deserve to win their division.
You're going to end up playing either the Saints or the Seahawks, and you are going to get destroyed. So if that's the end, that's the end game. We don't see, you and I see this along the same lines. We don't see them playing past that first weekend.
Nope.
So if you know that, then why are you not using these last 6 games to evaluate that talent?
This is not a team. And Brian from Delaware, my man, we're going to get crushed on Monday night. And we're going to do a big, long, chips and dish show before that. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. But you're going to get exposed by a team that's Super Bowl caliber. Our franchise is not. So I was thinking about this last night. And I guess we're going to go a little bit longer on sports with the Eagles because, hey, that's all about the birds. And here was what I was thinking. Out of all the starters from yesterday, right? Out of all the players that you have, who is good enough to build a team around? Right? So let's just go offensive line. You can't say Kelsey, right? We all love Jason Kelsey, but he's in his last 1 or 2 years. You can't build a team around him.
No.
You can't say Zach Ertz for the same reason. No. You can't say Alshon. You can't say Brandon Graham. You can't say Fletcher Cox. You cannot say any of our star players. They are wasting the twilight of their career. So now go next tier. You could try to build a team around Carson. You just can't do it with Doug. Nobody in our secondary, because Darius Slay is a short-term rental. No one in our secondary can you build a team around. Singleton is an interesting point. He's showing to be a quality linebacker.
Yeah, quality.
But do you build a team around? Is he a Bobby Boucher type linebacker who you build an organization around?
He played in the last 2 games. He's probably your best one of your best players on defense. I mean,
absolutely.
Giants game.
What's going to happen is when Geary comes back, Geary's going to play. Geary's going to play when he comes back. Okay, so
White stick, right?
linebacker. Right. So now you go running back. Miles Sanders, he's got some things that you need coaching around. He's not a devastation running back. He's not a lights out running back. So now, wide receiver, you got Fulgham, who is containable. Rager, who we haven't seen enough of yet. Goddard, who is a good tight end. He is a good tight end. So what I have come up with, and thinking about this yesterday, is that you are building a team around Carson Wentz, Dallas Goedert, and maybe Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
Blow it up.
How's that make you feel?
Blow it up. And because I'm blowing it up, we got to switch to something maybe a little more positive on the uptake. We're talking some Sixers. Here we go.
So
let's talk some Sixers.
Is there a way that Daryl Morey can run and just be like the CEO of all of the
Philadelphia
sports? Like he could
then
just
JT Realmuto gets to play for the Phillies again if that happens.
So and listen, let me throw
had
it
enough
real quick. If the Phillies have any eyeballs on anything that's going on that's relative right now, go hire a guy like Daryl Morey. Go hire a guy that's game changing. You should be looking at the Rays front office. Mm-hmm. You should be cherry picking out of the Dodgers front office. So that's just my side note on that.
I mean, Daryl Morey, I'd like Billy Beane to come back. He can moneyball any of our teams.
If you look at what they were able to get rid of,
for
getting rid
nothing.
of Al Horford's salary
for
that albatross, getting rid, getting at Drew. I'm with you.
Yeah,
you got rid of a top 6 protected pick, which whatever. You traded 2 draft picks, Josh Richardson and Al Horford, and you turned those guys into Seth Curry, Danny Green, Terrence Ferguson, Tyrese Maxey, Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, and
Go ahead, say it. I'm ready for it.
Superman.
You got Dwight
Howard.
So think about it, right? You were paying Al Horford so much money to do nothing. You got Dwight Howard for the veteran minimum.
And listen, there is only upside. He only brings upside to that spot. He's a guy who has been in the league forever. Mm-hmm. You're not asking him to come in and play 35 minutes.
Nope.
You're asking him to come in and play 12 to 15 minutes.
Right.
You
are asking him when Embiid misses a couple games to take up the starter role, but without the wear and tear of having to play a full season, do the job that he did with the Lakers.
I was just going to say, if you can get him to do what he did last year with the Lakers, I think.
And he's excited to be here. He's excited to be here. Whereas you had Al Horford's sister, poison. So let me tell you, I don't know if you follow it. There's a guy on Twitter, Real Prince Blue, who is, I don't know you, my friend, and I hope you watch this, and I hope someone says that, Chip for the Bird shouted you out. But what he did the day that we got rid of Al Horford. So Anna Horford is Al's sister, and she's just a real terrible, terrible person. She hated Philadelphia. She could never get behind it. So what Real Prince Blue did on Twitter is he changed his profile name to Anna Hotford. And he started sharing the DMs that he was getting from dirty Philadelphians. I was in hysterics. I was crying about the dirt balls that hit up on women on social media. Luckily that's not me, but oh my God. Kudos to you, my friend.
But if you look at the space, so in my mind, I look at that and all I see now on the floor is space.
Yep.
I see space everywhere, and I see you putting your 2 best players in the best position to be successful. You're letting Ben Simmons
built a team around your stars. You didn't call plays for the players you want. You built a team
Right.
for the players you have. So now you have either Shake Milton or Seth Curry as your starting point guard in the physical point guard spot.
Right. Yeah.
Knowing that Ben can bring up the ball.
Right.
Okay. You've got Danny Green to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually he moves to the 6-man role as Maxey gets ready to go.
Correct. I think
that's what you do with a first-round pick. You give him playing time.
I think what you're going to see from Maxey is what you thought you were going to get with Markelle Fultz.
Right.
You're going to see a guy who plays off the ball but can dribble, drive, can shoot. And I'm going to put this out there. Isaiah Joe, he can shoot.
He's a steal.
He's a steal. He's a guy who was projected in the top half. You know, I shouldn't say top, the bottom half of the first round. So for you to be able to get him at 40 and also get Maxey,
and then you keep going, right? You got Tobias Harris now moving back to the 3 instead of playing the 4.
And he's playing with Doc Rivers.
My man. Someone mentioned some things. I got to tell you, and I tweeted you this, it was hysterical. I am so proud to have a Twitter feed and to read the stuff you were posting. It was incredible. Keep up the great work. Right? Ben Simmons moves to the 4 where he can dominate any 4 in the league.
Right.
Now, this is an interesting point that Drew makes. If Ben can shoot, this team is unstoppable. So now I go back to my Eagles coaching question. Was he not shooting because Brett Brown didn't force him to?
Well, but listen. If
Doc Rivers is going to make him shoot the ball.
Here's my question, though, is that if he is with his eyes closed, a triple-double waiting to happen, does he need to shoot?
If you look at the outside arc when he has the ball at the top, there is nobody. They have been practicing social distancing with Ben Simmons long before COVID was a thing.
Absolutely. But if he can get to the line and shoot 75% from 3, if you can get him to shoot 75% from the free throw line and he can dribble drive, you now have if you've got Seth Curry and Danny Green and Tobias Harris on the floor with him and Embiid, he doesn't have to be he just needs to shoot when it's an option, but he doesn't have to be the shooter.
Correct. And you go back to that team when you had like a JJ Redick who would come off the screen and hit an open shot. You've got a qualified shooting threat again. That was the biggest thing this team missed last season is they had no one that could shoot the ball. Right. And you also, like Drew said, want Embiid in the post a lot more. You want to turn him into the big man that he is capable of being. And Doc Rivers, and Drew, you said it a comment ago, Brown was a yes man. He didn't want to upset Embiid. He didn't want to upset Simmons. He didn't want to upset anybody. And look, Brett Brown did the job that he was required to do, putting him in that position where he had to lose for pretty much every season he was the coach, and then all of a sudden go, okay, change your entire culture and be a winning team, was unreasonable. Now you've got a fresh voice. I mean, fresh in the sense that it's a new one. You know, he sounds like he has swallowed every thumbtack in human existence. But Doc Rivers and his nails on a chalkboard voice are going to make Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons better players.
And here's an undercover move. I love Sam Cassell. I love that you add a guy like that onto this staff.
Yeah.
Because he only makes Ben Simmons better. And he has history with Kentucky point guards.
Yep. So there's Maxey getting extra.
And so, you know, I'm listening to an interview earlier in the week with John Calipari where he's talking about Tyrese Maxey.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that you have a guy who has history with players from Kentucky in making them successunder, i.e., you know, and it's not an exact, you know, comparison, but like you look at the success that Devin Booker had under his coaching.
Absolutely. And if Ben averages 20 points this year, the Sixers win 60 games. Now, regardless, you know, do I think they're the best team in the East right now? No. I think that the Bucks got better and they were already really good.
Right.
I think that the Heat brought back a lot of their core that got them to the NBA Finals. And Jimmy Butler is exactly what we knew he was. We just let him go.
Right.
But this is the point that I could say about the Sixers, and I could say it about the Eagles, and I wish they would do it. When players go to the bench, they will get coached with the staff that the Sixers have now. And that is exactly what needs to happen with the Eagles as well. When the players go to the bench, they're going to get coached by the staff. Yesterday, when the defense for the Chiefs was tanking, Andy Reid, even though his offense was on the field, said, "Bien-aime, do what you need to do." And he went and he yelled at his defense because he knew the job that had to get done. Peterson is not that guy. He's a player's coach. Cool. But your players aren't playing with any heart right now. So you need to stop being a player's coach and light a fire under their ass.
Right. And you look at the coaching staff that Brett Brown had here. All young guys, all on the come, all looking for the next job.
Right.
When you look at this coaching staff, you're looking at Sam Cassell and Dave Yeager.
This is the next job.
This is the job.
Right.
So you have those guys who are not looking for the next job.
Right.
That were up for head coaching jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like where they are. I like where they're going moving forward. I think it's a good
now look,
it's where I wish the Eagles were.
Right. But the problem is, and the difference is, not even the problem, the difference is Doc Rivers is going to coach regardless of feelings. The Eagles have no accountability.
Right.
Same guy, two different comments, two different teams. As far as what Drew is saying, right, he thinks that we're better than the Bucs. We had their number last year. And I hope, Drew, that you're right. But the fact of the matter is that the Bucs got better. The good thing is so did the Sixers, right? Holiday is an upgrade, but he's an all-star. He's not a superstar. But remember, with that roster on the Bucs, he doesn't need to be.
Right.
You know, Antetokounmpo is a superstar. And then you look at their other players. Bledsoe is an all-star.
Right.
Middleton is an all-star.
Right.
Holiday is an all-star. And he brings that experience. He brings that fire. So the Bucs are a good team. The Bucs are a legitimate team. What's exciting to see is that if the Sixers stay healthy, the Sixers are a much, much better team than they were when this offseason started. And here is where I judge any team's offseason. Okay? Last 3 years, the Bucs had the best record. What happened in the playoffs? Right. They need that playoff experience. They need to push past it for sure. Any offseason, here is how I judge. Did the moves that the team made make them better or worse than they were when the offseason began?
I would argue with you that the Sixers probably had, out of all the teams in the East, they probably did the best job at upgrading their roster.
Agreed.
Across the board.
Agreed. Now, will it translate to wins? Like what was said, if Ben averages 20 points, yeah, it does.
We're gonna see in a month. You know, we'll see in a month whether or not, you know, we'll start to get a good look at what that space looks like.
I agree.
And how that space, the double teams in Embiid are going to look a lot different when you're able to kick it out to guys like Danny Green and Seth Curry.
Right.
That makes a huge difference when those guys start knocking down shots.
And you got them for great contracts.
Right.
You know, you didn't. Like with Horford, when you got Horford, you gave him a contract that was completely unreasonable.
Right.
Even Harris's contract wasn't good. Right. And you're already paying huge numbers to Simmons. You're already paying huge numbers to Embiid. You're already paying now huge numbers to Harris. You left no money. You left no money for the bench, and it showed.
Right.
When you're sending people out like Zaire Smith, Kylo Quinn, it shows. Right.
Yeah.
Morey was brought in to undo Brand's mistakes. And so far, very quietly, very focused, laser beam focused, he has. He got rid of a terrible Horford contract. He got Zaire Smith shipped off to wherever he needed to go to. You know,
right. And you replaced the guy who wasn't going to Zaire Smith was not going to contribute on this team.
And by the way, I saw before we went live, the Pistons are planning on cutting him already.
The only person
what does that say?
Zaire Smith's corner was Brett Brown.
Right.
So once Brett Brown left, his days were going to be numbered. So I like where they are, and like I said,
I think they got better. You look at an offseason, and did they get better? I knew, and I have it on written record. I have it on written record with the Sixers, or not the Sixers, with the Eagles, that they got worse this offseason.
Absolutely.
And I was being generous to say 8-8. I think I said 7-9. I have to look back, but I think I said 7-9. I was not high on this Eagles team. Now, as a fan, I want them to win 16-0, right? I want them to be the Steelers right now.
Right.
This team wasn't the Steelers. They did nothing to get better. All they did was get older. That was the Eagles. The Sixers took a team that was already in the playoffs past couple seasons with two superstars in the making.
Right.
And they brought in pieces to accentuate.
Right. And you think about this what that spacing is good. Now, let's not forget, Embiid's on Embiid's playing for a contract now.
Yeah. And he's going to get it.
Right.
If he stays healthy, he's going to get a good contract.
And he should. But you look at that spacing, when you double Embiid and you kick it out to Danny Green or Seth Curry, and they start hitting threes, and now all of a sudden you realize, well, we can't double Embiid every time because we can't leave that guy open.
Right.
Well, now Embiid's one-on-one in a block. I like what that offense looks like because it can be fluid. You can dump it into Embiid and kick. You can kick it out to Curry. You can let Danny Green and Seth Curry hang out on the three like you did.
And you can also let Maxey develop instead of relying on him to be a contributor right out of college.
Absolutely.
You have players in place that are going to give him that development time, and you've got a coaching staff that is going to allow him to develop. Look, I have no ill will towards Brett Brown. You know, he's a Popovich disciple, and he did the job that he was told to do. It was, hey, we're going to give you the worst team in the history of the NBA.
I feel the same way I feel about him as I'm feeling about Doug Peterson right now. He's a good guy. The players want to play for him, but there's that albatross out there that says, like, okay, that's great that they love playing for you.
Great. I'm going to put him on a Christmas card list, but
exactly.
You know what it has done? What this has done is shown that the 2017 Eagles team wasn't as good as we as Philadelphians built up in our hearts for them to be. They will forever be the team that we love.
Absolutely.
The 2017 Eagles and all the players that stepped up and the next man up mentality and Philly and all those guys. Listen, they will forever go in our hearts that way.
Every move that they made every move that they made in that season worked.
Just happened to be the right move.
So,
but it gave them a false sense of security of this is the team, this is the management team that is going to do it again. Right? And every fan said, "Oh yeah, I just need one before I die." We're Philadelphians. If you thought it was just one,
it's like Pringles.
BCIB. Who's that? Who we got? You got to type it out. I'm not good at my acronyms. I'm a teacher at 740. I have way too many teacher acronyms in the brain. Big. Wait, hold on. You better drop a link or something because there is no way this team is signing JT Realmuto unless Morey somehow found the keys into Citizens Bank Park and opened up the GM locker and said, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to be the hero. I'll tell you what, I'll take down a Nick Foles statue for a Morey statue if he gets JT Realmuto back on this team.
That will be something that will forever haunt.
We're switching Phillies.
To be able to give up that,
Brandon, you're exactly right. JT Realmuto is the best catcher in baseball, yet the owner of the team said flat out, well, with COVID and the fan base, we don't have enough money to re-sign him.
Well, also the same guy who said, people aren't going to be relocating during a pandemic, so that's why they're looking at someone in-house for a GM.
I'm just so tired. And again, we as Philadelphians, we as fans of these four teams are so passionate And we want exactly here what Drew said. Heart. We want players that want, and I said this in the post-game show yesterday, that would rather die than come off the field. Jason Kelce will never buy a beer in Sea Isle City, ever.
Absolutely.
And I know that because he's always rocking the OD shirt. Ever. Ever, ever, ever.
You're right.
You have a team, you have multiple teams run by these GMs outside of Maury, because Maury is now, somebody new, run by GMs and coaches outside of Rivers, because Rivers is someone new, and Girardi, he's okay, but who don't understand. They're so out of touch with what this city craves. What's wrong with being Chips? I'm Chip. That's me. I'm Chip. Right? If Harper restructures, because Harper said flat out that he needs JT Realmuto on this team. He expects JT Realmuto on this team.
He did anything and everything last season to make
cheap. All right, I was about to say you told me Chips over here.
Yeah, when he's hitting home runs and he's yelling up into the press box, sign him. And
you could hear it because there was no fans there.
Yeah, you could hear it. He was not hiding it, and good for him. Because if you're gonna hold, I want, as a player and as a coach, I want you to hold the team accountable. And
you're the face of the franchise. You get to say things like that,
right?
And you're doing your job,
right? That's part of your responsibility.
5 teams. I'll be honest. There's certain sports that I know really well, and I'll have to, as the as the soccer gets picked up, and
So I'm gonna give a shout out to my hometown. All right, so Orland, Pennsylvania, home of the Union coach Jim Curtin, is a good family friend. So the Union is a 5 for 5
and a winning program.
Yeah,
and a winning program.
Right, they're playing let's tune in tomorrow night. They're playing a playoff game tomorrow night.
There you go. Get your I would say get your popcorn ready, but what do soccer players, is it popcorn? Is it what is it that they have to get ready?
Whatever they're serving at Subaru Field.
Right. Realmuto's jersey was worn by Bryce Harper the entire offseason. They paid one guy $300 million, the team would be good. Yeah, baseball's not that sport. Baseball is not that sport. It's a team sport. And Harper demanded that money, but now he demands a team to go around him. All right. We have amazingly, and you wouldn't believe it, gone for an hour and 12 minutes. So what we always do on Chips and Dish is we end talking about the game that's happening in just a couple of minutes, right? We got to talk Monday Night Football, right? We got to talk Monday Night Football. So tonight we got the Rams and the Bucks, which, by the way, on paper, great game.
Right.
Great game between two teams that are competing for the NFC Championship this year. Eagles aren't competing for that.
Those two teams will be at the top when this season's done. They'll be at the top. So I look at it and I see a Rams team in the last 4 weeks that's alternated wins and losses. Mm-hmm. Wins against Seattle and Chicago,
right?
Which the game against Seattle was impressive. But then you also couple that with losses against Miami and San Francisco.
Some bad losses.
So that inconsistency. Now I look at Tampa, who's 4-1 in their last 5, mm-hmm. But that one was ugly.
Oh yeah,
was that ugly game in New Orleans? I look at Tampa and I look at their offensive weapons and I say, Tampa's 3-1 at home this year. Mm-hmm. The Rams are 2-3 on the road.
So I look at it as the Bucks need to win this game, right? They've had, like you said, they've had some really ugly games. They've had some just bad effort games. And you have Tom Brady, a player who's going to will his team to win, even though, like Brian said, it's past Tom Brady's bedtime. So he might be a little bit off. Yeah, the weather's, I get it. But remember, if it's Tom Brady time, right? He does the prime time playing, right? The Bucks need to win this game. The Rams are good, but they're inconsistent. McVay's offense is lethal,
right?
When it's on, right? On paper, it should be a good game, but it's going to be a high-scoring game.
That's what I was going to say. if you're looking, if you're a
If you
betting
have
man,
either of those teams on defense for your fantasy, yank them.
yeah. But if you're a bet man, this if there's ever a game that you're going to play the over on this one, this is a game to play the over.
Yeah, absolutely. I got the Bucs winning this game just because I trust Tom Brady more than I trust Jared Goff.
Yeah, I trust Tom Brady at home versus Jared Goff on the road. Tampa's 3-1 at home. They're 4-1 in their last 5.
So you're saying there's a chance.
All right.
Listen, I got the Bucs tonight. You saying you got the Rams or the Bucs?
I'm gonna take the Bucs too.
All right.
I'm gonna take the Bucs and the over.
If listen, Drew, if the Rams win, I will make sure I shout you out next Monday night. All right. So let's do a couple things real quick. So first off, I got to let you know that there is Chips and Dish merch in this All About the Birds shop. It's got this lovely mug on it. So you can get this mug on a mug if you really wanted to. We're still working out some things. Apparently there was an issue with the Bitmoji logo, but we're working it out. So there you go with that. Some huge news from All About the Birds camp.
Yeah.
So this is Thanksgiving week. So the boys do not want to do a show on Wednesday night like they normally do. So they went, listen, we're going to do our Seattle preview show tomorrow. So that's Tuesday night. Here's the big news. Trey Thomas is joining the boys tomorrow night. Trey Thomas. You want to talk about a left tackle? You want to talk about a Hall of Famer in my heart? Trey Thomas.
Talk about a guy who can break it down.
Yeah, you need to follow him on Twitter and listen to some Trench Talk.
If you're someone who likes those breakdown videos, like
oh yeah,
you're following a Baldy breakdown. If you're following
Orlovsky, he is the Orlovsky for the line.
Yeah, Trey Thomas will break it down with the best.
Right? Yeah, word Trench Talk, right? Okay, Don 2 on the over. What we got here? Time to talk some Trench Talk with Trey. That's from Phil. Phil, I told you I'd shout you out. So listen, it has been an hour and 17. I wanted this again. This is the second episode of Chips and Dish. I want to thank everybody for joining. I'm going to play one video on the way out, and then we'll wrap it all up because I put together a little something for the boys. You got a lot of great stuff happening with the All About the Birds Network. You've got some great articles. You got to follow the website. You have some great shows coming up, and I just want to I put this together for the boys real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. So next week we're on at 6 o'clock, not 6:30. We're going to do an extended version of, we're going to call it Double Dip, Chips and Dish. We're going to do an Eagles Seahawks preview. Oh dear God, I hope something changes between now and then. I want to thank my buddy Don Conaway, fellow teacher at Eisenhower, for joining me for the last hour 18.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody, from the All About the Birds Network. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come on here and look forward to whatever comes of this. So
my corny sign off, because I still haven't found anything better. Just keep chipping away at life, friends. We'll catch you on the flip side. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.